Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. So there are a couple things in life that can only be experienced fully. Like you never hear somebody saying, I partially experienced this. So if we look at it, I'll give you a couple examples. Like nobody partially snorkels, right? You're either snorkeling or you're in the boat, but you don't get to sort of snorkel, right? And the glass boat thing that they offer you in Mexico, that's not really snorkeling, okay? It's either snorkeling or not. You either skydive, and I'm not promoting this, okay, though it feeds into the sermon, I'm not promoting this. You either skydive or you're in the plane, right? You don't partially skydive and partially experience that thrill of falling, all right? You're either doing it or not. Whitewater rafting, right? This is something that you either do, you're in the boat and you're hitting the waves, or you're not. And the last one I'll give you is roller coasters. You either experience a full roller coaster or not. There are some things in life that in order to get the fullest experience, you're going to fully commit or you're not. There's no half-heartedness about it. There's no, I'm only going to sort of do this or sort of not do this. If you want the experience, you're going to commit and you're going to do it. Right? But there are other areas in life where we have to make a bit of a more active approach and more proactive decisions in order to fully experience them, because we can kind of sit on the middle. And if we don't fully commit, we don't fully experience, right? In the examples that I gave, you will fully experience snorkeling, skydiving, roller coasters, whatever it is, because there's no being in the middle. But there are other areas in life where we have to be proactive. We have to make a decision to be committed, to pursue, to be wholly present in order to fully experience. If you've ever played on a team sport, you have to choose to be committed to the team. You have to choose to be committed to your teammates and to the practice and to everything, and to winning games and to losing games, in order to understand the value of what it means to be part of something special, right? Same thing with friendships. We can be half in and half out of friendships, but true friendships are experienced fully when you are devoted to the individual, when you fully commit to being there even when it's not easy. The other example I'm going to give you is a trade or a craft, right? If you have a certain gift, and that gift is special, but that gift needs to be worked on. In order to really get the most out of your trade or your craft, you have to really be dedicated to honing it over time, right? And not choose other things to, well, I kind of want to do this and I kind of want to do that. Okay, well, you will kind of enjoy this and kind of enjoy that. But to really experience something special or deep, you have to be wholly committed to it. This idea of not being divided is a theme woven into the gospel of today. This idea of being committed to something is woven into the gospel of today. And the gospel of today comes from Matthew chapter 12. And in the gospel, it begins by the Lord healing a demon, or casting out a demon of somebody. And the Pharisees are around, and the Pharisees don't like what Jesus has done. And so the Pharisees are trying to kind of plague how people perceive what Jesus has done. And so they start to say, well, he did it by the power of Beelzebub, who's the ruler of the demons. And Jesus goes into a bit of an argument with them and a defense, saying that there's no way I could have done it by the ruler of the demons, because if you do it with the ruler of the demons to cast out another demon, well, then the whole kingdom of the demons falls apart because there's fighting within. And so he begins to bring this idea captured in this verse, right? If Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then will his kingdom stand? Right? So I'm going to pull a couple of verses from the gospel that begin to build this mindset, if you will, of what it is to be wholly devoted and committed to something. Right? Because it's woven into the gospel of today. So Jesus casts out the demons. The Pharisees want to give an explanation. Their explanation is wrong. And the Lord kind of sets this principle saying, if you're divided against yourself, you cannot stand. And if you cannot stand, you cannot experience. The other thing that Jesus goes on to add, all right, building off his idea of not being divided, is that he challenges this idea of staying in a neutral position. People like to be in neutral, right? I don't want to be too much on this side because then I'm going to upset people over here. I don't want to be too much over here because then people on this side are going to be happy with us. We like to be in the middle quite frequently, right? We like to be in neutral position. We do this at work sometimes. We kind of dance, right? I don't want to upset this person. I don't want to upset this person. I want to be in good standing, okay? But the Lord speaks about really holding a non-neutral position. Neutral is not a position that the Lord is ever in, and he doesn't call us to either be in a neutral position. So what does he say? He who is not with me is against me, and he who does not gather with me scatters abroad. So the Lord is saying, I'm doing a work. I'm working towards something. I and the Father are wholly committed to each other, and we are doing a work, and you're either working with me or you're working against me. All right? You're not sort of with me, sort of helping, and then sort of not helping. You're either going to work with me or you're not going to work with me. Not this middle ground. The Lord never took middle ground. The Lord clearly had a position, and he stood in his position. And when people didn't like his position, he stood harder. He did not have the middle ground. Middle ground was never part of his mission or his walk here. And he never calls us to walk in neutrality. He's like, work with me, because either you're working with me or you're not working with me. Non-neutrality is the Lord's position. Neutrality, that's what we like, right? We like to play the field. He doesn't play the field. He's a clear stance on the field. And the last thing that the Lord spoke to, right, in this gospel of today, comes in this verse. He's speaking to the Pharisees, but he's telling them to make a decision, right? Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or else make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For a tree is known by its fruit. So he's talking to the Pharisees, and he's saying, take a position and be committed to that position. Be devoted, right? If you want to have a good tree, all right, well, good trees and good fruits don't happen overnight. Good trees and good fruit come when you sow for a good tree and a good fruit. And if you've ever gardened, if you've ever spent time outside, and if you've ever had to grow things, it takes time. And there's failure. And the issue isn't failure. The issue is saying that when you fail, you continue to be devoted to cultivating something that will be good. Right? The Lord never calls us and says either you're going to be perfect or no more shots for you. No. He knows we're going to fail. He knows we're going to come up short. He knows we're going to make mistakes, but he still calls us. He said, when you make a mistake, be devoted to the process of bearing good fruit. And when you're devoted to the process, you'll be devoted to something that happens over time. So the Lord kind of builds this mindset or this mentality in what he's preaching. All right? And if I could sum it up, I'm going to give you 3 words. Being wholly committed, being clear on where you stand, and being devoted to the process. Being wholly committed, all right, your whole person, being clear about where you stand in life, and being devoted to a process. And when we have our whole self there, and we're clear about what we're doing, and we're devoted, we experience something more deeply. We move from a superficial experience of something, all right, into a deeper, more intimate, and fulfilling experience. When we are wholly committed, clearly positioned, and devoted over time. So I want us to take these 3 ideas, right, that work together, right, and there's overlap. They complement one another, but they are still unique. And I want to take these 3 ideas and I want us to apply it in 3 areas. Right? You can apply it in many areas, but I'm going to challenge us to apply it in 3 areas. The first area that we need to apply it is in our relationship with Christ. Right? In our relationship with Christ. In our relationship with Christ, there's always space for us to be more wholly committed to Him. Meaning, there are areas in my life where I purposely keep Christ on the side. I don't engage with God in certain situations in life because if He comes in, I know things have to change. So, I don't let Him in. I'm divided. Right? And there are some areas where I don't take a clear stance in my relationship with God, right? Or who I am in this world. I don't have a clear stance. I play the middle field on certain issues where Christ has spoken very clearly on these issues, right? And being devoted, knowing that when I wholly commit myself and I have a clear stance, I'm not going to walk this path perfectly. I'm going to make mistakes, but can I learn from my mistakes? Can I work on my mistakes? All these areas are ways that we can look at ourselves and say, in my relationship with God, I can improve in one of these 3 ways. And we look at these 3 ways, and we also look at the mothers and the fathers of the church, right? The saints, the desert, those who have gone into the desert. What did they do? They took them whole selves, they were clear about the position that they had, and they devoted themselves to a life in the wilderness. And what did they receive? A deep, deep, intimate relationship with the Lord. What did it come at? Being wholly committed, clearly positioned, and devoted to the process. And what do we get from them? Treasures. We get an understanding, a picture of what it looks like for somebody to be wholly committed, clearly positioned, and devoted to the process. All right? So we can look at our relationship with God in these 3 ways. The other thing that I want us to apply this to is our relationships in general. Right? How we relate to one another. And you can choose your spouse, your children, or your friends. All right? Co-workers. You feel in a relationship that is significant to you. But then go through and apply. Am I wholly committed to this relationship? Am I, clearly positioning myself to be in a relationship with this individual? And am I devoted to the process of what it takes to cultivate healthy relationship? We only have so much capacity to have relationship. Having tons of relationships is essentially having no relationships. Because what we crave, what we really want, is intimacy. What we really want is deep connection. And you can have deep connection with a few people and it'd be way more valuable than connections with many people that are very superficial. But what do we need in order to get there? We need to put our whole self there. We need to be clearly positioned, and we need to be devoted to the process of developing relationships, which takes time, right? The best friendships are the ones that fight and learn how to work through the fight, right? Marriages, when you fight, not a problem, but you work through it and you become devoted. When you argue with your kids, okay, it's going to happen, but you stay committed to that process and you clearly position yourself to be committed into that process, to be devoted to what it takes to build a deep relationship. People come and tell me, I don't fight. I'm worried about you. Okay? If you don't fight, it means you're not going deep. But when you fight, and you fight right in your relationships, you end up with a much deeper relationship than if you keep things nice and tidy and peaceful. And the last third area that I want us to think about applying this is with regards to community. Right? Regards to community. Because in building community, in building a church family, what it takes is for us to be wholly present, clearly rooted, and devoted to what it takes to build community. Because community doesn't happen overnight. Community doesn't happen because I show up for 1 month, 2 months, right? Kind of dabble in this, dabble in that, or cherry pick certain like church events. I'm like, oh, that seems like fun. Let me go there. But then I stay back from other things. We can't cherry pick church events. We can't cherry pick church, and we can't hop from churches to churches. Right? We need to find a place, to be wholly committed to a place, position ourselves clearly in a place, and be devoted to building community over time. Because we need it. Because we're designed to live in community. We're not designed to live by ourselves. We're not designed, right, to kind of have just like tastes of different places. We're designed to work through problems. We're designed to draw close to one another through difficulty. And that happens over time. That happens when we are devoted, because we need that devotion when things get tough, when things get ugly, right? When I don't want to see you, you don't want to see me, but we come to the table and we see each other and we figure out how to make it work. This is what builds community. This is why everybody needs to have a home church. If you don't know where your home church is, you need to find out where your home church is, because you have to build community. You have to be wholly in one place. You have to be clearly positioned with a group of people, right? And say, this is my tribe. This is my group. This is my church family. And I'm going to be devoted to working it through with you. And when we do that, we build something special together. When we do that, we look back, right, at all the different things that have happened that normally happen to a church community and say, look at what the hand of God has done. Look at how the hand of God has brought us through this difficult situation. Look at how when we were short with our finances, we pulled together and the Lord blessed us. Look at when this person was sick and we pulled together to say, okay, how are we going to help this person? When this family is hurting, we all gather around and help that family. When this family celebrates, we all come together and we celebrate together. Is it always exciting? No. Is it always fun? No. But does it bring about something deep and intimate and beautiful and fulfilling? Yes. Your whole self, clearly positioned with a mindset of devotion. If you apply these to the different arenas of your life, you will reach greater depth and fulfillment in whatever it is you're pursuing. And we need to do it in our relationship with God. We need to do it in our relationships with each other. And we have to do it as a church family and a church community. So you pick one of the three. You pick any one of the ways that you want to, devote yourself, right? And that's what I want you to focus on. Is it going to be my relationship with God? Is it my relationship with a certain individual? Or is it going to be my relationship with a church community, a church family? You find any one of those and you ask yourself one question. In what way can I be wholly committed, clearly positioned, and devoted in that relationship? And glory be to God forever and ever.